Okay, so let me read off the checklist, calling the meeting to order. This is a checklist to ensure meetings are compliant with the right to know law during the state of emergency. As chairman of the Sanborn Regional School Board's Finance Subcommittee, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. However, in accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are A, providing public access to the meeting by telephone with additional access possibilities by video or electronic means. We are utilizing Zoom for this electronic meeting. All members of the Sanborn Regional School Board Finance Subcommittee will have the ability to communicate contemporaneously during this meeting through this platform. The public has access to contemporaneously listen and, if necessary, participate in this meeting through dialing the following phone number: 846-558-8656. Meeting ID is 979-0749-3365, or by clicking the following website address. It is YouTube, www.youtube.com/C/SRSD meeting videos. B, providing public notice of necessary information for accessing the meeting. We previously gave notice to the public of the necessary information for accessing the meeting, including how to access the meeting using Zoom or telephonically. Instructions have also been provided on the website of the Sanborn Regional School District at www.sau17.net. C, providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anybody has a problem, please call 978-482-7394 or email at helpdesk@sau17.net. D, adjourning the meeting if the public is unable to access the meeting. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state whether there is anyone in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. So let me go back to see if I can see people. Okay, let's get started with Dawn, please.
Dawn Dutton. I am in my home and there is no one with me.
Jim.
Jim Baker. I'm in a room in my home and there's no one here.
Matt.
I'm Matt Angel. I'm at the SAU office and there's no one in my office.
Tom.
I'm Ambrose, superintendent. I'm on my back deck and there's no one here.
I'm Jamie Fitzpatrick. I am in my car in a parking lot in Manchester and my daughter is in the back seat. So that's my situation presently. Let me jump to the meeting agenda. Did everybody get a chance to review the minutes?
Yes, I did.
If okay with everybody, could I get a motion to accept?
Motion to accept.
Second.
Okay, a motion to accept the minutes. Dawn?
Second, yes.
Yes. Jim?
Yes.
And myself, aye. So that'd be unanimous acceptance of the minutes. Jumping back to the agenda. Revolving fund balance, May 2020. Matt, could you step us through that, please?
Yeah, sure. Let me share my screen.
Thank you.
And
I probably have a problem figuring it out from here.
Yeah, so I'm sorry if it's going to disappear on you.
It's visible.
Okay, so the Special Education Expendable Trust Fund, as of the end of May, has a balance of $237,356. The Capital Improvements Maintenance Capital Reserve Fund has a balance of $145,622.
Hey, Matt, I think you're reading the prior year.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. I am. Let me quickly start over. So Special Education Expendable Trust, $240,903.89. The Capital Improvement and Maintenance Capital Reserve Fund, $172,836.86. And the the unanticipated educational expenses capital reserve fund is $75,106. The facilities use revolving fund is $92,366.46. It looks like we have a $20,000 software expense that we just paid. That should have been approved at a prior finance committee meeting.
And what software was that, Matt?
Actually, wait a minute. That wasn't done that month. It was done in a previous month. So that would have been the Windows 10 upgrade that occurred in the fall.
Okay. I was going to say, because I don't recall one from the prior month.
Okay. All right.
Very good. Any questions?
None for me.
No.
I would just point out for public clarification that the warrants that were passed, we've stated this before, the warrants that were passed in March will have funds coming from the unencumbered balance by the end of June 30, 2020, and will be moved into these appropriate trust funds on July 1, 2020. So that is still to come. That has not been forgotten, but that is the terms of the warrant articles. So I just wanted to point that out for anybody that had questions on that. Matt, could you step us through the budget reports, please?
Sure. Wait a minute, I have to switch to this one here. And then hit share. Okay, so this is the monthly health insurance report. And what we have is expended for the year is this health insurance, $3,508,729. We've encumbered an additional $1,069,231.81. And wait a minute, this is an old one.
That's
Yeah, I was going to say this is an April date.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Last number I recall was 358 or something like that.
379.
Was it 379? I don't have that in front of me, but I knew that it wasn't 403 anymore.
I'm sorry about that. Let's see. Let's try this again. I have it on another screen. All right. So expended through the end of May, $3,875,442. We have encumbered $725,268. This would be for the month of June, and remaining is $379,853. Now, Jim Baker had asked a question in the prior meeting. How come it changed from the 402,000 that I just previously spoke about? And basically what happens is we encumber the funds at the beginning of the year. And if there are any planned changes, it changes differently than the encumbered amount. So it's the amount remaining is actually declining as we go through the year when we're recording actual expenditures. And it looks like it's a family plan that is causing the difference. All right.
So Matt, and I don't know if you have this information or not. Since we went down roughly in the 50,000 range, 32,000 range from April to May, would we expect a similar decline May to June as we wrap up this fiscal year or not?
I'm anticipating it to be that way. So when we go through the year-end numbers, I threw in a just in case, because when I tried to do my numbers through the end of the year, I did notice that there was a decline in it as well, which prompted me to investigate Jim's question.
Okay, so when we look at the estimates, that's something that you're trying to take into account from an estimate perspective going forward when we're looking at the prospective end of June numbers.
Yes, later in this meeting. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So the next report is going to be the monthly expenditures without health. I'm just going to drop right down to the bottom.
Yep.
And we've expended $24,175,230. We've encumbered $4.6 million. Now, out of that $4.6 million is payroll and other expenditures. Other expenditures is about $1.6 million. And so there's about $1.2 million remaining available.
And of that, Matt, Did we encumber the 210,000 for the bathroom and the locker rooms?
No, not yet. I have to set them up as a vendor. I can't actually assign them correctly in the system. So I'm working with them right now to set them up. And
So then
that's going to be in that year-end schedule that I'm going to go over at near the end of the meeting.
That's what I was going to say, that we will see that then in the schedule of estimates and where we fall for the end of the year.
That's right.
Okay.
So can you see the revenue report?
Yes.
Okay. So right now we have received $33,287,287, and we have $1,738,378 to be received. Of that, $1,013,000 is basically a net income loss that we're budgeting for that we'll never receive. So I'm going to be going over this too for the year-end numbers, but it's going to equate to a positive. Let me see if I can switch to it on my screen. It's going to be, oh, that's last month's. It's going to be a positive of $387,977 above our budget. That's what I'm anticipating through the end of June.
What was that number? 387 what?
$387,977.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to switch. I want to go over. Jamie asked me a question earlier Jim. It's either Jamie or Jim asked me a question earlier in the day, and these are the different columns that are on the budgeted report. Now, if you look at the far left-hand column, it's the budget column, and some of them have a zero item in there. All these revenue budgets were used to help set the tax rate, and if there's a number in there, it actually reduces the tax rate. The problem is if I overestimate the revenues, it means we didn't raise enough money on the tax rate. So we have to try to make it so that we're underestimating our revenues. Now, when I did a quick calculation when I was talking on the phone with either Jim or Jamie, and I came up with we're estimating within 1.1% of our actual budgeted revenues. So we're fairly accurate. Does that answer your question?
I would say that sounds really accurate. And I mean, revenues are complicated because if Fremont had an increase or dip in students, the revenues would change just from that alone. And then
Correct.
The state funding formula is totally out of our control. I mean, the variables are, just for the public's knowledge, the variables are significant.
And where they were delayed this year also in terms of getting the final state activity.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how these roll through when we step through the spreadsheet from the revenue report, the expenditure report, non-health. Jim or Don, any questions on that right now?
No, but Matt, on the revenue side, looking at that 1,738,378 minus the 1,013,507, that's the use of fund balance. With your additional calculations, leaves a net positive at $387,977. That's right?
Yes.
Okay. Above what was anticipated.
Yes.
Okay.
And I have that on that spreadsheet, that year-end spreadsheet, and
Yep.
I can go over it in more detail then.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm most interested in is what does that spreadsheet look like where Matt has taken into account all the knowns, because the fund balances, the spending balance and the revenue balances were as of the end of May. So Matt's estimates as to where we land is in the next sheet. So Matt, if you could step us through that, please.
Okay. Let me bring this thing up. I may pick the wrong one. Yes. Okay. So these two columns right here, this is the revenue and expenditure estimate that I have for the year. But then over to the right-hand side is pretty much a doodle spreadsheet. So this right here is the revenue estimate that we spoke about. If you look at the report, the revenue report we just covered, we're looking for an additional $1.7 million of revenue to walk in the door. Of that, 1,013,000 is the use of fund balance. Again, that's budgeting as if we're going to have a net income loss. And then we issued a bill for Fremont in the month of June of $1,112,848. So that means with all the revenues that are on that main report, we're going to see a surplus of north of $387,977. And if you look at your budgeted, your revenue budget, it represents this 387,000 represents 1.11% of our budget.
So Matt, the use of the Fremont tuition number changed from 961 on the revenue sheet to the 111.8 number. So that is increased. Could you explain that for our benefit and also for the folks that may be watching?
Yeah. So when I calculate what the Fremont tuition is, I'm trying to calculate it back in per year. And so what I did is I know what the tuition rate is, and I have a guesstimate of what the number of students are, and I multiply them out, and then I subtract out $50,000, and that's how I came up with the Fremont tuition. So what happened is we had more students come in. We had additional special education tuition that was charged, and it actually exceeded the budget that I had used to calculate the tax rate.
Okay. Okay,
So
and that gives us go ahead, I'm sorry.
The reason why there's a surplus is because I calculated the revenue almost a year ago.
Yep, okay. And so net right now we're looking at about 390,000 is 387,977, and revenues in excess of what the original plan was, and that's your 1.1%.
Yes, that's
right,
correct.
Thank you.
Now on the expenditure side, we have the 379,000 coming from healthcare. I subtracted from that $22,751 that I'm anticipating. This is just an educated guess for the month of June. That's going to be because the PO is different than the amount of the bill. Again, that was calculated last year. Unspent funds of all other line items of 1.2 million. We're also going to add back $44,760 for bus costs that are not going to come about. So that means we're going to have about $1.6 million that's going to go back to that's been unspent, that's available to spend. Okay. Now, when I go down in some of these other projects, we've had some decisions on some of the projects as to where they're going to get funded. I moved them off here to the right-hand side for two reasons. The first one is if they're going to be funded from a source other than general fund appropriation, such as the facility use revolving fund. And then the second reason is if I recorded an encumbrance for it that's included above, I took it off. So for example, the phone right here, there's an encumbrance for it that's included in the unexpended number up here.
Okay.
Over. We have the memorial roof that we've decided to take out of the facility use revolving. We have the books that's going to be that you guys decided to be taken out of the facility use revolving or from CARE Act funds. And we're working on CARE Act funds right now. So I believe 100% of that's coming out of CARE Act funds. The new accounting system is going to come out of the facility use revolving. And then the teacher laptop was decided to be used CARE Act funds and next year's appropriation. So I had to take that out. So we can't include it into the current year. Okay. And then we have these other projects. So the memorial entranceway, we're still working on that. we're actually going to be starting on another door to make sure that it's a practice, basically. So I don't have good numbers on that yet. The paving, if you go over to the high school right now, you can see all the paint marks where we've staked out where the driveway is going to be, and so you guys can see it. We're going to have vendors come in and actually bid on that over the next couple of days. So I'll email you what those quotes are going to be, so that at the next meeting, you guys will have hard numbers on that. The second floor doors, again, is tied to the memorial entryway. The second computer labs, we've actually started that. A lot of that's being done internally. That may go down, is my guess. The book room, we haven't got the plan back yet from the architect. The new cameras at Bakey, we just got a camera plan from our safety officer, and so we're going to be going over that in the facilities meeting. These are other items that I'd like to have out of the current year, but not necessary. But I've included them in this number down here below. So that means that out of the current year appropriation, I'm going to have $1.2 million of unspent funds out of the appropriation. Add that to the surplus revenues, we're going to have almost $1.6 million that's going to go back to the taxpayers. It's actually going to be higher because I've got $400,000 that was reserved in the prior year, but I got to reserve $125,000 for articles that were voted at town meeting. So there's about $1.8 million available to reduce the tax rate. Let's switch to.
So, Matt, do you have an estimate of what the impact will be on each town?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the next.
Oh, okay.
Good straight man, Jim.
Yep. Okay, great. Just call me Gracie.
Now,
So many people aren't going to understand that reference.
I got it.
all right, so we have $1.8 million. I'm recommending that we reserve around $500,000 for next year, which would mean we'd have $1.3 million to reduce the tax rate. It would essentially be a reduction of 2 cents to Kingston and 16 cents to Newton. If your house is worth $300,000 of assessed valuation, it's $6 to Kingston and $48 to Newton.
Reduction, right, Matt?
Reduction. Okay.
Great.
Now,
Can I just say one thing about this slide before we move on to discussion, Chair?
Well,
I don't know if
sure.
Jamie can see me.
Yes, I can see him on the side, the pictures.
Okay, I'm trying to be better.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Go ahead, Tom.
So I just want to remind everyone, I want to acknowledge that the board, the administration, Matt in particular, we're almost a year and a half ahead of funding the middle school move. Our projection and our plan was that we would pay for all of the repairs to the high school or the changes at the high school, the paving, the bathrooms, and all of that out of the 2021 budget. We've paid for it in advance by being very, very, very careful. And as a result, our taxpayers are receiving a reduction along with COVID, which helped. But I just want to be clear, everything's paid for and we're not even into the July 1st budget cycle. That's phenomenal. And that's a testimony to everyone on the team, the school board, the administration, the teachers, the contractors, the community. We're doing phenomenal as a whole team. And I just think it's important to note that to be able to lower the tax rate and pay for everything is just wonderful.
So Tom, let me just, so I called Jim a straight man, and now I'll say that you're stealing our thunder. But one of the things I did talk to Matt about was I very much wanted to highlight exactly what was paid for out of this year's budget and how much we have done. Because in my mind, normally speaking, you would think a finance committee is trying to rein in on spending and making sure that the district is whole. And I wanted to make sure that the taxpayers were aware of just how much this administrative team has done on their own to bring this in, and the amount of projects, the sheer volume of work and the dollars involved in bringing it all in out of this year and still being able to come to a position where taxes are not impacted and absorbing what the increase was in the the teacher's contract that was approved is pretty astounding. And I asked for Matt, and I don't know if he had time to pull it together. We'll know momentarily, to kind of put that all in together for the true storyboard as to just what has been accomplished in the past year. So I think a hat tip to the administration, particularly to Matt, yourself, and leading the team, and everybody underneath. That
Thank you.
there's been an awful lot that has been done in a very short period of time, while still husbanding the dollars as tightly as possible to minimize any tax implications to the taxpayers. So maybe from the flow of the meeting, Matt, if you had time to take a look at that, that could be something that we jump to next and skip over the goals and come back to them.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah. Just for clarity's sake, I just want to point out that the tax rate that's going to be lowered is the school portion of the tax bills.
Thank you.
The towns have voted in substantial expenses this past year. So people's tax rates will go up, but it'll be the town expenditures, not the school.
Thank you for pointing that out. Very important to know. Both towns had numerous warrants. Matt, you're looking to jump in?
Yeah, I just want to point out that the tax rates that I put in there are just pure estimates at this point. I don't know what the assessed values are for the towns. I don't know what the apportionment is going to be. It's all based upon last year's known information. Okay.
Understood. Don, any comments?
I think, I'm new to this team, and I'm really proud to be part of it already. You guys have done an amazing job, and I am so proud of everything, all the hard work that everyone has done. So, thank you for allowing me to be part of this committee, and thank you for all the hard work, everybody.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Matt, did you have a chance to try to pull that information together? It'd be a good time to jump into that. The flow would be quite appropriate, I think.
Okay. I did. The problem is the system wasn't really being helpful. So
we could share that at the
maybe we should get a new accounting system.
Yeah, we should get a new
Let's share that
accounting
at the board
system.
meeting next week, Jamie. Would that be okay?
Yeah. All right. This is on my doodle spreadsheet over here.
Yep.
With weird numbers. Basically what it's saying for next year, we're going to see a reduction in teachers' salary. And I know that we're missing teachers' salaries in next year's number because the system hasn't generated it yet because we haven't person into that position.
That was a payroll issue that you mentioned before in terms of pulling it down from the system.
But don't forget that we are in a negotiation year for next year too. So there's no anticipated increase in next year's in the FY21 budget. I don't know if this impacts things, but there is a negotiation coming up.
Yep.
The negotiations for the 2022 budget.
Yeah, I mean, if we don't have that information, rather than go with estimates that you're not comfortable with, what I was really trying to get a handle on is so we had the original plan that Superintendent Ambrose together with your help back in the year, saying this is what we're going to do with these types of costs. We know what the increases were that were voted in from a contractual basis. I'd just like to kind of get all of that together to really frame the efforts and the activity and the stewardship of tax dollars. I mean, it is very easy for a public body to spend a lot of money, whether they really have it or not, or whether they really need it or not. And I think that all of us probably would have things that we'd point to and say, maybe this differently, maybe that differently. But if you look at it holistically, there's a hell of a story to tell there. And I'd like to get that framed so that people can see exactly what has happened.
Why don't you frame that with Matt for the board meeting next week, Jamie?
We could do that if we've got better numbers at that point in time.
If we can.
That's so people know. That's what Matt and I had talked about, is how do we pull that data set together, because there's an awful lot there. And as Tom had indicated, it's ahead of what the original plans are. And it's a testament to the efforts and the determination of the administration in driving this forward. Jim, comment.
Yeah, I think we have a finance meeting scheduled for next week as well, right?
That's on the agenda. Yep.
Okay. So we could get a preview.
If
Right.
we can do it by then. If not, it's okay. But I just want to remind everyone too that this is really exciting on the tax side, but I want everyone to remember that this is also about the kids. We are ready to fund our intervention program for the kids, and we're still saving money.
Correct.
It's good for everybody. And so it's for me, I'm excited to get our intervention programs up and running and work on curriculum and work on the teaching and learning side of things, because we had to figure this out to fund it. So it's both, right? And I just don't want anyone out there to think that the conversation is only about saving money. It's about saving money and helping our students learn better. That's my message, is that I think about the kids every time we make a decision, and I'm really excited for what's going to happen. Just wanted to throw that out there that, provided that we have in-person school, it's going to be complicated, and that's a whole other story that I don't want to get into tonight.
Well, we're counting on you to make that so, Tom. No
I am
problem.
doing everything I can, but I promise you.
Jim, you had your hand up.
Yeah, and in regard to that, all of those things fall into the concept of sustainability, because without that, you don't get the funding that you need.
Exactly. We've worked together.
Right.
It's a community effort. And that's what I want everyone to see, is that it's a community effort to slow the rising tax increases and meet the needs of our kids. And we're all doing a great job. And I can't thank everyone enough.
Well done, you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Keep it up.
Right.
Got a few more grays, but it's all right. They come with the territory.
Those are
Grays aren't bad, so
COVID
they-
grays.
I think they are
Yeah.
COVID grays. I don't know if it's
COVID grays,
being
yeah.
home with my kids or if it's the work. I can't
Yeah.
tell. It's probably both.
Yeah. So the next item. So then, without that, because I expected that to be a pretty a large topic for further discussion when we get those details. So I won't belabor the point other than to say thank you.
Thank you.
The other item that we had was the goals. And so we came up with the goals for the school board. I still think from a finance subcommittee, the goals that we had talked about that I listed in the agenda, which was namely, we have a review of the processes, the financing, spending of the programs in IT and in athletics are already going on. And we had also said special education should also fall under that rubric. I'd like to open that up for discussion with the other subcommittee members. If we're okay with those, if we would like to see something different, I would say that these really align with the board goals under the creating a core strategic plan. Because in a core strategic plan, you really need to know what your IT plan is. You need to know what your athletics plans are. You need to know what your overall game plan is in special ed. So I think it aligns properly to the board goals that were adopted last week. But certainly if there's other ideas or adjustments or concerns, then we should be getting that on the table and making sure that for the year we know what we really want to make sure that in addition to everything else that we do in a finance subcommittee, that we do take a look at these. So Jim, Don, any comments, feeling on that or disagreements, anything at all?
I'm on board with those three goals and aligning that as part of the board goals and the overall strategic plan.
Okay, Don, thoughts?
No, I was just saying I agree as well. I think those are three areas that, maybe haven't been looked into quite as often and quite, in the detail that other areas have. So I think those would be good goals for us.
And I would just want to point out that because for people looking at home, when we say that we want to look at these, that is not to be interpreted as slash and burn activities. That is to be interpreted as a review of the programming, the funding of the programming, how they work, and are we getting an efficient program for the money spent, or are there options to be considered for improvement? So it isn't a, hey, look, let's go after cutting money in those. It is a review of the programs to come up with what is the most efficient means of delivering for the benefit of our students and their education, these supportive activities.
We're essentially doing an audit for the purpose of informing the strategic plan. Oops. Would that be fair, Jamie?
Yeah. And as in any audit, I am sure that we will find things, room for improvement, areas of continual improvement. That's what you're looking for in audits, is how do we do what we're doing even better? And then you often find things that, geez, why aren't we doing this other thing that we found? So it would likely be some mixture of both, is what my experience is in audits. And then we will take what we find and use a rational eye to say, how do we best organize and maintain this, to the term Jim used before, for a sustainable future for our students and for the district.
I agree.
All right, I'm going back through to my comments. Did we get any updated quotes, Matt? I saw from your spreadsheet, I think the answer is no, but just to verify that, any updated quotes on the revision to Memorial of the paving? We're still waiting on both of those. Is that correct?
That's correct. And what we're going to try to do I need to build a door as part of the lease of the middle school to SLC, and I'm going to use that as a project to develop the skill necessary to do the Memorial School entrance. And I'll have better numbers once we start that project. We actually started it, but we haven't ordered the door yet.
Okay. The other area that Don has brought up on occasions, a number of occasions, is the signage at all 3 locations. And last we talked, there were difficulties in getting quotes on signage. Are you still running into that, or have you had some luck in getting some quotes on signage?
I spoke to someone on staff today, and she thinks that she can get someone to quote signage. It's a firm out of Hampstead, and there's another one out of Portland, Maine, that's interested.
Okay, because that would be important. And for anybody at home that's watching that isn't aware, John has pointed out that with the changes in the reorganization, signage is really required at all 3 locations, not just at the high school, because there'll be new people coming in and out, and we need to address that. So we are making
Memorial
sure
will have
that
a different flow. Memorial will have a different flow as well.
All right, so that's all part of when we're talking signage. It's not just at the high school. It's broader than that. It's to address the needs of the entire district.
Yes.
I believe, unless I have missed something, that we have covered all the items that were identified on the agenda. The going forward agenda will be to come back to where are we on estimating that year-end number and keeping an eye on that, and where are we on this whole, the original funding that was anticipated, the timing of the funding, and where we are now, and what's been able to be achieved during the course of this fiscal year. And then preparing ourselves going forward. Tom?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, could we also have the board vote on the recommendation to withhold the 500,000? I don't want to drag that into September like we did last year. So the committee needs to make a recommendation to the board. So Matt recommended withholding 500,000, knowing that we're also returning 400,000. So it's not, it's not in addition, for the public's sake, but in his projections with that tax amount, that included withholding the 500,000. You saw that, right? That the amount that he poured, which is really important to talk about right now with COVID. I think it's an important time to withhold that and then give it back at the end of next year. It just provides a sense of this. If there was going to be a tough year, there's a lot going on. So I just want to be really careful.
All right. To further the discussion, could we have a motion to recommend to the board?
Well,
ahead,
we can discuss without a motion, but let me ask you a question.
Go ahead, shoot.
We're having another meeting next week, and we're going to have hopefully more solid numbers and current numbers by another week at that meeting. So my suggestion is we make that motion. You need the motion really for us to recommend to the school board is what you need, right?
That is correct. I was
Right.
suggesting that that be placed on the agenda for next week
Okay.
when we have the numbers and whatnot.
All right. I mean, if I thought Tom was looking for a discussion this week, I concur with Jim. I'd rather have more information rather than less. And I do think it's valid, as Tom pointed out, that it's talking about a net 100,000 versus what was held last year. And as we're this year, that flows back in the following year. It is not, and Matt, correct me if I'm mistaken, I believe that the rules of the game are, it is not additive. You cannot put 400 aside next year, 500 aside this year, 500 aside the next year, and build up 1.4 million. So whatever is put aside, either is flowed back through, and then there is a legal max that you're allowed to put aside in the following year that cannot be exceeded. As Matt showed in the spreadsheet, I believe that was 569 this year, and Matt had recommended 500. So I want to make sure people are understanding this isn't a cumulative set aside to build a slush fund. It is something that happens annually and flows annually. So just in case there's any confusion on that item. Don, are you okay also with waiting until we have better numbers for next week to pursue that?
I think that's a good idea. Having some more finalized numbers would make more sense. And I also agree with Tom that, next year could be a little tricky with everything that's going on. So having some really good solid numbers to know where we're at and trying to plan ahead, I think that makes the most sense. So yeah, let's wait.
Okay. All right. Any areas that have not been covered or have been covered insufficiently? Anybody on the call here, Jim, Tom, Matt, Don. You got your hand first.
Yeah, I just want to sort of bring up again the amounts of money that we've prepaid from this year that were previously anticipated coming out of next year's budget. It will be important to have that information when we're looking at the 500,000 to be retained. So we have a real clear idea of where the money that we're not going to need for next year, as well as the $500.
So Jamie, can I respond?
Go ahead, Tom.
But remember, that moves our plan forward to hire the paras for next year. So it doesn't really change. It just changes it forward a year. So it doesn't change the budget for next year. It really doesn't. That doesn't impact the 500,000.
Well, Jamie?
Go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, I look at it as one complete basket. These are all parts of the basket. So in order to look at the parts, you kind of need this, or the whole, you need to look at all the parts. That's my only point.
I'm not really clear as to what Jim's asking, but he and I can work that out this week in preparation for the meeting.
Well, Matt said, we talked about it earlier. There's items, well, you talked about it, Tom. You said that there's items that have been paid for out of this year's budget. We're ahead of what we've paid. I mean, we didn't have the paras and the intervention teachers for this year.
Right. They're going to start next year.
Right.
Because we're a year ahead.
Yep. We've paid for other costs out of that budget. And next year we're anticipating 1.4 million in savings coming from the consolidation and the closing of the middle school. So that's a whole nother basket of money. And that money, a portion of that money is going to go toward the intervention and the paras and
Jim, we need to catch up because I can't unpack this right now.
Okay.
It's not the district anticipated saving $1.4 million as a result of the reorganization, and then the board voted to put in $950,000 in academic intervention.
Right.
That was supposed to happen over a 2-year period. It is now happening. We did it in less than 12 months. Because we did such a phenomenal job. Like, number one, out of that 1.4 million in the first year, Brian saved us almost $350,000 by moving the locker room and not building a locker room.
Right.
So there are so many different facets to this that to put it into like one, we've already, and I cut almost $280,000 from the 2021 budget out of the 450 that was anticipated to be savings for the community. and we cut 150. We have already reduced the budget by almost $450,000 over the 2-year cycle in anticipation of this move. For example, I didn't fill the librarian this year at the high school. So the money that we saved from that went to paying for the bathroom. It's really complicated, but the bottom line is that the simple version is we're almost 16 months ahead of our plan, and we've done it through being really, really, really careful. I don't want anyone to have the false assumption that at the start of and when we do the budget next fall, that we're going to reduce another 1.4 million or 450,000, because we've been reducing that as we go. Right. So that's already, when I cut the 270,000 this year from the budget, that was in anticipation of us being so far ahead of schedule. I just don't want anyone to think that we're going to find another 450 that has already been done, is what I'm saying.
Go ahead, Jim.
But the 1.4 million in savings from the consolidation and the move from the middle school have not been derived yet. That's coming in the next year.
Right. Oh yeah. Okay. I get it. Thanks, Jim.
Right. Yeah.
It takes me a second that's why I wanted to talk with you and then talk about the next meeting. But yeah, exactly. So out of the 1.4 million in savings, 950 of it has been spent. And we did already cut $450,000 from the budget, is what I'm saying. So it has been derived already. The 270 that I cut this year in my superintendent's proposed budget came from the savings of the middle school. So I'm saying that, yes, it has already been taken
out. The savings that we haven't gotten yet.
No, we actually saved some of it this year. So for example, we cut the librarian.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Right.
That would all be part of, if I might, that would all be part of the reconciliation that we were talking about before, that shows what we brought ahead, et cetera.
Right.
And in addition to that are the things I think that Jim also included in your broader statement, was things like the Chromebooks that we're ordering ahead in FY20 in order to make sure that we're in the pipeline. Although we're saying those, we'll probably end up taking them out of 2021 dollars, but that there's just so many pieces. That's what part of we're really trying to get laid out as to what has been moved in, what has been covered with this year's funds, what is net of the total that we're estimating for FY20. And I think what Jim is asking is, and therefore what is left in 2021 of expenses, of savings, and what is that going to look like?
And you'll get all of that when I do the budget. Can't do the budget right now, but I'll know more. Literally, we've done a massive amount of surgery, and we're in the recovery room right now and getting ready for PT. Right. And that will be clearer when we do the budget, what is and what isn't, and it's going to be pretty exciting, I think. Yeah, so I'm very optimistic. We'll put it that way.
So in my mind, there's two different sets of data to be looked at. One is wrapping up FY20, and Matt's got that kind of laid out. And the other one was the 2-year plan, which has included what was passed for the 2021 budget.
Yes.
What has already been funded out of 2020? What has not been funded out of 2020 that will still come out of 2021?
Yep.
And ultimately, what Jim's trying to get at forward thinking is, what will 2021 look like at year end? And will we be or will we not be sustainable with or without the 500,000? So Jim is in my mind, Jim is trying to think, all right, how is that going to look so that together we are properly managing our tax base and our financing over the 2-year period in preparation of the budget, which would be 2022, which Tom has said they'll be putting together in that cycle soon. So those are the three.
Why we need a strategic plan, Jamie. You just laid it out perfectly. That's it. Because then Jim's always 3 steps ahead of me, so I have to catch up. Like I now understand what he was saying, and it's hard to we're in such an amazing but chaotic time. Things will become a lot clearer when I write the 21-22 budget.
Well, to simplify though, that what I'm looking for, and I know you can't tell us the 2021 budget, but the things that have been paid for this year that would have gone into next year, we can
like for example, we're paying for the bathroom, we're paying for the office at Memorial, we're paying for really everything. The main office at the middle school is all paid for. That came out of last year's budget.
Yep.
all of that stuff. And then what will be left is funding I can answer it on a simple level. The only thing that's left is we're funding the 6 paras or the 8 paras for K through 6 for the intervention program. So I really can't, I can say what's left to fund, and we'll be able to fund it starting in September instead of waiting till the September of 2021, which is really exciting. But we're going to wait on filling those positions because I need to see what happens with COVID. I don't want to hire 8 paras and then not have school. So I'm assuming that we're going to have school, but
Yeah.
I'm a little cautiously optimistic right now. Right. And I need to see.
I have a quick question for you.
Yeah. Someone has a question. I didn't.
No, that was, they're pulling my daughter out of the car to go talking.
Oh, yeah. It sounded like a different voice. I'm like, yeah. Just tell them you want $5,000 off or you're walking away, and let me know how that goes.
I'm telling her to just put
He's
it on
already
there,
done that.
All is good.
Yeah. I usually
They're
do it.
doing the paperwork. He's already done that part.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Good. Hey, well, before we go, I just wanted to tell you that I had a really funny, quick funny story that I thought you would appreciate. My wife and I have our kitchen needs new tile. So my wife and I go to the tile store, and the tile person is like, yeah, if you want that porcelain, it's $5 and it's $4 to have it installed. And I'm like, yeah, right. I've been on the finance committee at Sanborn Regional School District. You got to be kidding me, buddy. So I went over to Home Depot, found an awesome porcelain tile for $2 a square foot, and I hired some guy to put it in. I'm saving almost 60%. So there you go.
That's the way. That's right.
So 60%, our cut from the finance committee is 60%.
Oh, heads up, Tom. I'm
Yep.
gonna be straight with you. The reason they can charge you $2 a foot, because my husband sells flooring. The reason they can charge you $2 a foot is because they buy in bulk and they'll take any quality. They don't just take
Watch the quality. All right, Don, I'll be careful.
Yeah,
careful.
that's true enough.
All right, I'll throw the crappy tiles in the bathroom.
Yeah. But seriously, that's how they get away with it, because they take all quality where most other stores will only take first quality.
That makes a lot of sense, and I would agree based on the store I went to. But knowing my teenage boys in that kitchen, I'm okay. We'll redo it again in 10 years.
Yeah.
Hey, I just thought you'd all get a kick out of that. So anyway.
Well, we know you're tight with a buck, Tom.
It's only because I've been taught by the masters.
Right.
Jamie,
When you built your own SAU office a couple of years ago, then that was what tipped me off.
Yeah, that's fair.
Right.
That's fair. You're right.
Okay, Tom, you were anything else? I thought you were saying something else.
Nope, I'm good. Thank you, everyone.
Matt, anything from you? Anything further?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Jim, all set at your end?
All set.
Don, how about you?
Good.
Thanks, Don.
Okay, then let's wrap this up. We'll adjourn it.